Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Great to be with you on this Sunday, May the 2nd. And since today is May the 2nd, do a little bit of math, and that means that 2 days from now, Tuesday, is May the 4th. Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So I've been thinking about that because back on April 21st, I dressed up as Yoda to be the reader for Copper Ridge's family reading event at Barnes & Noble at 90th and Shea. So there I am, all garbed up as Yoda with my Yoda hat on. And I get some crazy ideas at times. And I thought, wow, as I'm sitting there looking at all these kids and they're so enthralled and into it, maybe I ought to do a Star Wars themed sermon and have on my Yoda hat and give some of it in Yoda speak. Interesting would that be? So whatever you might have to say about that, there's one thing that would be true about a Star Wars themed sermon. It would be out of this world. I actually expected to hear some groans on that one. So as I was there as Yoda and reading, and seeing these kids, just like I do every day I'm at school, I got to thinking, how can I make a difference? I hope I am by teaching them the things I'm teaching them, but beyond that, because anybody who is a teacher will tell you that kids learn more from you than just your academics. They observe you as a person. They observe how you talk, how you speak, and you are making a difference and an impact in their world. Can I get an amen from many teachers in here?
Amen.
So, as I'm looking at them, I'm also thinking, how can I show them Jesus through me? How can I show them Jesus? Now, notice I'm not saying how can I bring them to Jesus because I teach in public school and I can't go there. I can't have an altar call at the end of each school day. Just won't work. But how I am with them. How do I show them Jesus? What do they see in me? And that's a question for all of us. Have you ever been in a situation where you just knew you needed to get something done and you kept putting it off, but finally you've got to get it done? Depending on where you lived, it may have been getting the gutters cleaned out. It may have been getting your taxes done. It may have been getting shopping done that you had to get done, especially because there was a birthday coming up. Just things that you knew you had to get done. And you set aside some time to do them, and more often than not, what happens? You set up this perfect time. You think you've got it all blocked off, Sometimes it works, but there's also Murphy's Law. And things happen. Have you ever been there? How do you handle those interruptions? How do you handle those times when your plans go awry? What do you do with life's interruptions? What does it say about who you are? Because we've all been there when our days didn't go well, and let's face it, it creates tension. Our day's thrown off, and it feels like we're thrown off. Our lives are thrown off. But it's just part of being human and part of the day-to-day. How does that affect how you are out in the world? On good days and days that don't go as planned. Because you know what that speaks to? That speaks to your heart. And here in this letter from John, Jesus has commanded us to love one another. And John says, sacrifice as Christ has sacrificed for you. Little children, love one another. And how can you say that I truly love God if you don't look out in the world around you and do things for the people in the world around you? Do you say, on a good day, I have time for this? Do you say on a bad day, I don't have time for this? Now, if you choose the latter, let me remind you of a story Jesus taught. Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan. Ring any bells? Did the Samaritan say, oh, I don't have time for this? It's a bad day. No, yeah, too bad, bye. No. That's not what Jesus did. In fact, constantly throughout the Scriptures is this urging from God to care for one another, and that's how we make a difference. I know that we hear a lot about we are saved through grace, and I'm not disputing that a bit. But we can't think of just saved by grace and everything's gravy. No, we have to live out our faith. We have to live out of grace. We have to live out of the change that has made in our heart. And Jesus, along with many other places in the entire Bible, has made this clear that faith must be an action. Jesus said this in Matthew 25. And I would imagine that as I start to read this, you'll go, oh yeah, I've heard this before as well. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Take it from me, you don't want to be a goat. Matthew 25 continues. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink." Sound familiar? I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" And the king will reply, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did for me." And then he turns to the goats and he says, essentially, you didn't do this. You didn't come see me. You didn't clothe me. You didn't feed me. You didn't give me something to drink. And they protest loudly. "When did we see you?" Jesus, if we had only seen you and known it was you, we would have done something. Please believe that. We just didn't know it was you. And Jesus says, whenever you did not do it to one of my brothers or sisters, it's like you didn't do it to me. What we do makes a difference. So my question that I had for the sermon last week that I changed was, where do you see Jesus? Where do you see Jesus? Did I see Jesus in these little children spread before me? Do I see Jesus when I look out on my classroom? Do I see Jesus when I look at you? And I have to admit, those first three are pretty easy. It's easy to love those little kids at family reading night. It's easy to love the kids in my classroom most days. And it's easy to love you all, my brothers and sisters and companions on this journey of faith. But it doesn't stop there. That's not what God's saying. That's not what Jesus said in his stories. And that's not what the Spirit within us desires. The Spirit that guides us and leads us yearns for us to ask ourselves, where do I see Jesus? Where do I see need, and how do I respond on good days and days when things have gone askew and I'm rushed and I'm worn out? You know, are we going to get it perfectly? No. But also in 1 John 3, there are these words of comfort that God knows the intentions of our hearts. God knows what is really there. God knows the spirit that resides within. Are we looking beyond ourselves? Are we asking ourselves, where do I see Jesus? Where do I see need? How am I responding? How can I make a difference in the world? How can I live out my faith? God sees that, and God knows that. One of the things that I have lifted up on numerous occasions in my ministry is that we are all ministers. We have different tasks of ministry, different gifts, different graces, but we are all called to be fellow servants of Christ, ministers, if you will. And every week, you give a sermon. Now, I give a sermon up here every week, and that's how I am living out my calling at this moment. But you are preaching a sermon too. With what you do, where you are out in the world, how will people see Jesus through you? So, what kind of sermon are you? Amen.